When I started, like I said, I couldn't work at all. Now I'm working 3 days a week. I do 10-hour days as a
Wow.
nurse.
Dang, girl. Really? Hey everyone, Heidi is an RN who works in oncology, and she was completely sidelined as a result of long haul. She suffered with symptoms related with new onset of POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. She started to also have worsening of her gastritis, food allergies, starting to look like her allergies got so bad with the food, it started to look like mast cell activation. And she had debilitating fatigue where she couldn't even walk, along with these, you'll see, tons of symptoms of long haul. She was getting no answers from her medical doctors and her ER visits. Find out where she is today, what the answers were, what the solutions were.
Heidi, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Heidi. I am a nurse and I was an oncology nurse for a few years. I was a nurse practitioner student and I love the outdoors. I love traveling and did all of these things up until I got long haul.
And life came to a halt then, and you're a young woman. And so I imagine you had a very active lifestyle before. What was life like before you got hit with long haul?
I was a runner, a road biker. I skied a lot, hiked a lot, traveled a lot. So all of this kind of came to an abrupt halt with long haul.
And so I want to hear, what was it like once you got long haul? What type of symptoms were you dealing with? What kind of issues?
At first, I developed POTS-like symptoms. Whenever I would stand, my heart would race really fast. It would go up to about 180 beats per minute. I would get dizziness, lightheadedness, developed severe chest pain. I also developed brain fog and severe fatigue. I couldn't walk for probably about a couple weeks.
Couldn't walk at all.
When I tried to walk, my heart would race so much that I'd have to sit back down.
Okay, what was that like? You went from being healthy, vibrant, running, biking, skiing, to then you can't even stand up and walk across the room?
Yeah, it was devastating. Huge shift just from I had done a race about a month prior where I skied, biked, ran, and then all of a sudden almost bedbound. So it's a huge, huge shift.
You know, Heidi, a lot of people don't realize that you mentioned POTS-like symptoms. A lot of people in the audience don't even know what POTS is. There's such a misunderstanding around POTS. POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And then people just think, oh, that's a cardiology problem. But I'm just going to tell you, we have a whole bunch of trainings around POTS if people want to know how we turn POTS around. But the interesting thing here is that it can cause palpitations. It can cause, even with its mild positional changes, severe blood pressure drops, which can cause dizziness, which can cause you to be unstable. And those runs of palpitations, the tachycardia in the heart, can be scary and debilitating at the same time. And here's a classic example of where a virus can trigger POTS and POTS-like symptoms. So this is a really good example and an opportunity for people to learn there are many causes of POTS. And in fact, it probably shouldn't belong in the realm of just cardiology at all.
And is that the route that you took to try to get help, or what doctors did you seek out for some of these issues?
Yeah, so I started in going to the ER. I went to the ER multiple times. All testing came back negative, and they sent me home with no answers.
So frustrating.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty typical though.
Yeah, and then I went to the ER again with my heart rate dipping down to 30 beats per minute.
Fast and slow. Right?
Again, they sent me home not knowing what it was, and then referred me to a cardiologist, which took about 5 months to get in.
I'm like, by that time, I'm like dead. I've gotten into a car accident. I'm already dead. I'm already not working, right? That's the other thing, is how long it takes to even access supposedly the specialist you're supposed to see.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious though, when you did see a cardiologist, what did they do?
They didn't actually do anything. So they recommended I get a Holter monitor, and that was it. Yeah, I wasn't put on any cardiac meds.
And so even after that, Heidi, you didn't get much help at all from the cardiology world.
No, not at all. I'm actually still waiting for an echocardiogram.
Which is going to be normal probably.
It's been half a year and a test they haven't even.
So halt echocardiogram is an ultrasound of the heart. So we actually get to see the heart move in live action. So we can actually take a look and see if there's any valves that are problematic. We can even measure the flow of blood around the heart. But really it's there to see, is there any functional problem with the heart? And probably 99.99% of the time, when someone with POTS or these symptoms go to see a cardiologist and does an echocardiogram, it's also normal because that's not where the problem really is.
So, meantime, your life sounds like it's coming to a halt and in some ways falling apart. I want to hear what's been going on then during that time period with work, with your life. What was happening?
Yeah, so I was traveling to Europe. I had to cancel my trip, which was supposed to happen right after I got long haul,
Mm,
and called my work, had to take 2 months off.
wow.
I was working part-time, so just completely stopped working. I actually dropped out of school for a semester,
Your
and
life stopped.
yeah, it was really tough.
Emotionally, what was it like?
It was devastating, yeah. Never had I dealt with health issues prior, so I was a very, active. I was a runner back in high school, all through college, so it was kind of a huge dramatic change to the life that I knew. And definitely when I did go see doctors, I just felt like they didn't have the answers. It was so unknown. In some ways, I felt like they were gaslighting me, like my
Mm.
symptoms weren't even.
Like it's in your head?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's a terrible feeling. I've been there too. And to know truly that there's something going on with your body and having a doctor tell you, maybe you actually just need some anti anxiety medication, or maybe you just need to go get some rest. It is so frustrating because not only can they not fix the problem, but they're not validating what's actually happening. So I can relate. It's not a fun experience. So then I'm curious, you actually had known about Dr. Maggie, I assume, because you had a family connection, right?
My stepmom had done the program prior and she highly recommended it. When long haul happened, I wasn't aware how linked it was to kind of an autoimmune reaction. And so I was hesitant, like which path to take, but all the signs kept pointing that it was fairly similar to an autoimmune
Well,
disease. So
I find that a lot of people, they don't realize a couple things. Number one is I think transform any chronic disease around naturally. Like if you have a chronic health system of any type, we're going to be able to help with that. And I think one of the reasons, Anne, is because it's interesting in Heidi's case. A lot of people, for example, look at POTS, the POTS diagnosis, and they think, oh, that's a cardiology problem. That may have nothing to do with any other system. But the truth is most chronic disease isn't necessarily even about that target organ. I don't think Parkinson's is about the brain. I'm telling you that right now. They already know there's a intestinal cause of it. So there's a systemic approach of bigger issues that feed any of these chronic disease of any type, chronic symptoms of any type. And what people realize, I think why this case is interesting is there could be immune triggers as well. So you
Mhm.
could get sick with something, you could get inoculated with something, and boom, it can actually trigger the onset of these mystery diagnoses that doctors don't know what the heck to do with. So what I'm going to tell you is all chronic disease can be helped, number one. And number two is there's a huge immune basis and autoimmune basis. I just wanted to ask, what was it about? Was it a family recommendation or referral that caused you to say, yeah, this program could help me? Or was there something else that you experienced in any of our social media or trainings that told you, yeah, this stuff could definitely help me?
yeah, I think it was a combination. I had watched some videos on POTS from your program, and that really helped me understand kind of what was going on, as well as my stepmom having done the program. And even prior to getting long haul, she actually recommended this program for me because I had been working as a night shift nurse and I had chronic gastritis for
Mm.
years. I just would have burning sensations every time I would eat. Could hardly eat. I lost a lot of weight and I suffered from chronic constipation for years. And then also hormone imbalances. So I had a lot of hormonal symptoms. I always had very painful and heavy periods.
Mhm.
And so even prior to getting long haul, after my stepmom had done the program, she recommended this program for me. And then getting long haul, it was just made sense to do it. So
You need to get icing on the cake to realize I need help.
And let's just get into it. Let's talk about what are your results? How are you feeling now?
yeah, I'm like night and day better. It's incredible. So when I started, like I said, I couldn't work at all. Now I'm working 3 days a week. I do 10-hour days as a
Wow.
nurse.
Dang, girl.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were holding that out on me.
and it's pretty active work. It's in an infusion center. And
You're
so,
an oncology nurse
yeah,
working 10-hour shifts.
so getting up and down a lot. So I'm having the energy to do that. My gut has healed so much. I couldn't eat spicy food for about 5 years. Now I can eat spicy food without feeling any sort of symptoms of gastritis. And my constipation has been truly reversed. So
And did that happen quickly for you? I'm curious.
for me, it probably was about a month.
And you had been constipated, you said, for how long? For it was a long-standing problem?
Yeah, years. I was actually on a proton pump inhibitor for a few years as well from the gastritis, and I think it was just this long process of my stomach just being so messed up. So, yeah.
Isn't it such a good feeling? People don't realize when you have constipation and you're dealing with irregular bowel movements, to finally have those regular bowel movements, it's like you want to celebrate.
Yeah.
Seems ridiculous because you're like, I'm so happy about this bowel movement, but it feels so good to be regular. And you just notice a difference overall once that happens.
It sounds like a little thing, but it's a huge thing.
Yeah, it was very linked to my mood.
Mm.
When my gut healed, I felt like my mood improved a lot. My anxiety and depression improved a lot. So there was a huge component, not only just for what I felt, but also for the people around me. They noticed that I just seemed kind of healthier and more positive. So
Back to being Heidi.
yeah.
Comment on the mood and why the mood improves. Just to give you guys a little medical background around it, is that I find that anybody with POTS, chronic disease of any type, they're in a state of a high inflammatory load and toxin load. And from long haul, there's a high viral load, okay, or a viral irritation of her immune system. And so what happens is that that's why proper digestion to actually break down food and kill viruses and bacteria and fungus are really important. The digestion is actually a first line defense. But breaking that and also causing you to have a healthy digestion, to have a bowel movement every day is really key to detoxifying. Because just thinking about it from a mathematical standpoint, if you have somebody who poops once a week versus somebody who poops every day, the person who poops once a week is going to have 7 times the toxin load and hormone breakdown product load as someone who poops every day. So would that have a dramatic change in your mood, in your hormone balancing, in your joint pain, in your heart symptoms, in your fatigue, if you decrease your toxin load to 1/7, 15% of what it was before? So that's a mathematical thing, and why digestion and elimination is so important. And detoxification is a huge end goal in any health obstacle that you have. And it's a huge outcome. The reason her mood is improved is because she got detoxified.
Now you know. That was amazing. Thank you for that explanation, Dr. Maggie. And that's
Sure.
exactly what happened to you, Heidi. The people around you even noticing, okay, she's back to being more like the Heidi that we know. What do you think? What else? Your energy wise, you said your energy has come back. You're able to work. What's going on with your heart palpitations too?
Yeah, my heart palpitations are a lot better. I still can get chest pain, and I know that's linked to long haul, but that's improving. I mean, I would get chest pain almost immediately, and I've been walking 3 miles. So,
From not being able to walk across the room to
yeah,
now walking 3 miles, that is dramatic.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you attribute the success to?
I think all of it. I think the blood sugar balancing is huge. When I do that, I sleep through the night.
Oh,
My
yeah.
Yeah, my heart palpitations actually were waking me up at night, and so that's something that I noticed really helps. And I just think, yeah, getting the gut health working to decrease the toxin load of having long haul, increasing the immune system, all of that. And so it's been huge. I think
Really
just energy
exciting.
wise has slowly improved over time.
Question for you. What do you think really helped your gastritis? Because a lot of people out there have gastritis. So I want you to reveal the secret sauce. What do you think really improved the gastritis for you?
I think, like what you said, when I got gastritis, I was put on proton pump inhibitors for 2 years. And I think just the lack of stomach acid that I probably had was just making it so much worse. And so getting on the Digestit was huge. And then getting on the probiotics, as well as some of the recommendations that you made for long haul that are more specific, I
Yeah.
think was all of that together.
I think, though, key also was all the specific testing for vitamin and nutrients that I think is really impactful for long haul and all chronic disease. I mean, you had specific data with which you could act on and said, I need this key nutrient and that key nutrient, not like I got to go take this $1,000 bundle for long haul or whatever it is. It's literally like I got lab data to actually show which vitamin nutrient deficiencies there were. I'm curious, what did you learn from food mapping?
Yeah, I actually had less food intolerances than I thought I would,
Yes.
which was really good. But I did have intolerances to nuts, and that was something I was eating a lot of. And so that showed me that, yeah, that was probably a huge part of it.
It's so interesting. Do you know that sometimes even specifically consumption of nuts can increase a particular amino acid that actually causes certain viruses to flare more? There's actually like not only just food sensitivities of finding out, oh, I got a nut allergy thing, but for example, we know that if you eat a lot of nuts, the herpes virus can actually flare more. And so what I'm trying to tell people is that there's multiple ways with which food can impact upon viruses, bacteria, gut microbiome, but also inflammation and allergy. So there's layers of that. So you learned that nuts was a new identified nut allergy for you or intolerance for you. What has been like removing it? Have you noticed any differences since removing those nuts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, my gut, like I said, I'm able to eat spicy food again. I'm having very regular bowel movements every day.
Glorious. I'm saying I'm having regular glorious bowel. I want to hear you say that.
Yeah,
I'm
what's
having
the adjective?
regular, glorious bowel movements.
I think that was key, was eliminating those nuts that I didn't know I was sensitive to.
Yeah. And the thing is, guys, I want you guys to realize is that food sensitivity testing sucks. Okay. When you don't have the right testing. The other thing is, as Heidi learned, even with the right and best test in the market, you have to learn what are false positives, false negatives. And that's what I really enjoy training on, having done probably 10,000 plus of these tests on people.
I want to talk a little bit more about your experience now in the program. Did you have any reservations about joining originally?
Once I watched the videos on POTS and realized that this program could help with all of these things, and then I also got ANA testing, and my ANA was high, and so I was pretty determined to do the program.
With your ANA, of course, people who don't know anti-nuclear antibodies, it can be a generalized marker for potentially autoimmune issues. However, it can also show up in other people who don't have clear diagnoses at the time. What did your doctor say about your positive ANA?
They referred me to a rheumatologist who it was a 9-month wait. I actually still have not had the appointment yet.
Well, I have a lot to say about that. And so, Anne, I always have what happens when I get a positive ANA and I'm waiting 9 months to see my rheumatologist and what that means. They're going to tell you not very much. What's going to happen is they're going to take that ANA positive test and then they have a very specific checklist, very short checklist. If you fulfill a certain number of things in this checklist, you get a diagnosis. But if you have other things that aren't on the checklist and you don't fulfill enough of those check boxes, you don't get a diagnosis and you're told nothing's really wrong. Let's repeat this. Maybe it's a false positive, or we'll wait and see until there's enough juju to pass the checklist test. And then you qualify for a diagnosis. Once, and if you ever qualify for a diagnosis, the only thing you're qualified for is some medication they have for you. So there's nothing they can do to prevent a diagnosis. And there's nothing that they can do if there's no diagnosis. So that's the problem. And there are some issues, Anne, which is that I think that some doctors will argue that when you get a viral infection or a bacterial infection, sometimes you get false positive of these tests. I don't really believe that there's false positive on these tests. From my experience, what I've seen is that these are markers. What they're calling false positive is you have the positive test, but you don't have enough symptoms to qualify. So therefore it's a false positive. Or recently you had a viral or bacterial infection and it could cause false elevation. A lot of people will test positive like 10, 15 years ago. And what I'm going to say is this, is that I think that when you test positive for any autoimmune issues or some of these inflammatory markers, take it as a super early warning signal, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 25 years, that there is already something happening already that's detected, that's been a mess. It's a early warning signal and a sign that you should do something about it now. Why? Because you can interrupt that now. You may never have to get that diagnosis. How about that? Don't take that it's a false positive or that it doesn't mean anything as gospel whatsoever. In fact, not taking it as an early warning signal can really hurt you, harm you, or even kill you in the future. So take this as an early warning signal.
And so that's great news for you, Heidi, because you were able to unmask a positive ANA and do something about it before you even had an opportunity to get into the rheumatologist. So by the time you're able to see this specialist, you've already taken so many steps to work on whatever the root causes may have been before ever even hearing anything about what a diagnosis may be from it. So I'm sure you feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was to try to stop it before it could potentially even turn to a disease.
And it sounds like you're really cutting it off before things, spiral out of control, because then it's harder. It's harder to come back from it at that point. Is it possible? Yes. But is it harder? Absolutely yes. So you're tackling this really early on, it sounds like, and then also turning things around. When it comes to joint pain, do you still experience that?
I can. For me, it's very linked to eating sugar. So part of my treatment with long haul has been eliminating gluten and eliminating sugar. And so just making sure my blood sugar is very balanced is huge for me.
So what you're telling me is also what you learned in the Transform program then has turned that around too.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, what was it like? People want to know from an actual participant in the program, what did you like about this program? What were some of your favorite things?
Honestly, I would say I loved how holistic the whole program was. So having a call for medical coaching, having a call for nutrition, having a call for mindset. I felt the mindset component was huge. I appreciated how much this program encouraged people to not stay victim to their like symptoms and to their disease, that to just keep hoping. And I think the mental component of healing is one of the biggest factors. And so when we think we're going to stay sick, then I think it's easier to do that. And so I really loved how in this program Maggie always encouraged us to think of the wins of the week, and then also each week doing activities around boundaries. I was someone that I
Mm.
loved to be so busy that I never really knew how to let my body rest. And so this program actually taught me how to do that, to not be afraid, even at work, to ask for a break when I need it. And so that was pretty life changing, I would say, for me, because that was something I was not very practiced in. So
I'd love to talk about that just for a second. It's the concept, and I called the body always follows the mind. The
mhm.
body always follows the mind. And so we want different outcomes for our body, but we don't think we need to change our mind. And the problem is the body, not the problem, the opportunity is that you make the change up here first, your body's going to follow.
Mhm.
If your mind is free, your body will come free. If your mind is laden, weighed down, your body will be weighed down and grounded one way or another, whether that's with pain, mobility issues, or weight. So the body will always follow the mind. And we're the only and the best medical program that actually teaches people how to change their mind. And I think as a healthcare practitioner, service provider yourself, you know, how frequently do you get any teaching or training or coaching around changing how you think as the trigger of new health outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like in nursing school and then in nurse practitioner school, you just kind of keep going. You don't stop to take, pause and really ask yourself these questions. And so like for a lot of us, I feel like it's the first time we're actually pausing and saying, what
Yeah.
is my body telling me? We're almost taught to just push through it. So
We are taught to push through it, to ignore our own pain, our own body. And here's the deal: poor boundaries in your mind, right? That means poor boundaries in your body and your health,
mhm,
right? So, and we're in the service industry where we're supposed to serve people to heal them, right? Boundarylessly as caretakers and givers. And then we expect our body to what? Have healthy boundaries for healing?
Huh.
It's incongruent. It's actually incongruent. So it's really important to get an alignment of your mind and your body, and then the results just come like that, like a flood.
And
yeah.
Heidi, when you were working through some of these mindset things, I know your life had come to a standstill. Did it allow you to once again start thinking about what future Heidi would be like when she had her health back?
Yeah. Doing the dream board activity was huge, just to kind of remember some of the things I want to do and to believe that they're going to happen again. And I think when I made that shift of, this is a really hard season of life, but I have to push through it and I have to fight through it. And I have to believe that I'm going to get better. I actually started to get better. So that was huge. Yeah. I think the fact that this program incorporates that is honestly what's missing in so much of healthcare, I think, is just fix you physically and not really deal with the holistic approach. And so I felt like so much of it is linked to people feeling like they're victim to their circumstances and not feeling like they can change.
We recently interviewed a family physician who went through the program, and she talked about how this program actually would change the way that she looks at medicine in the future. And I'm just curious, you also being in the healthcare field, do you have that same experience with what you've learned now? You cannot ignore it.
Yeah, I would say definitely still in my nurse practitioner program. So I haven't graduated yet, but it has opened this door of functional medicine, holistic medicine that I think is, kind of the missing piece in so much of preventative health care, even. So if we can learn to eat right, if we can learn to, treat our bodies right, then so many of us wouldn't go into this chronic health state. And I think that's huge.
So, talk to me about some of the dreams then, the dreams that Heidi is dreaming now.
Hope to travel again. So I have a couple trips at the end of this year that are a goal. The Europe trip that I wanted to do
You're
is,
going, you are going. If you can walk 3 miles now, you're going to Europe.
yeah, yeah, we're planning on end of this year, end of 2023. So getting back to exercise, which I know is going to be a slow process, but just walking and then,
Nope, you could do it.
yeah.
I broke my foot. I broke my foot literally 3 months ago and had to get foot surgery. And it was one of the beliefs, one of the stories that I had. And they kept telling me it's going to be slow for you to get back to walking. It'll be a long road before you can exercise again. And when I no longer let them tell me what to believe, I'm like the fastest person that was able to walk post the surgery. And I am currently back doing my yoga, my core workout. And I am going to New Jersey, New York this weekend. I'm going this week. And I'm going to be walking through Newark Airport. And it's like, I'm probably going to be walking 3 miles, but a lot of people are going to be like, oh, wow, 6 weeks post foot surgery, that with all these, screws and pins, you can't walk through Newark Airport. And I'm like, really? You don't know who I am. You don't know what my thoughts are. You don't know my brain. You don't know the power in my brain, right? It's not going to be a long road, Heidi. Exercise is going to be systematic, simple, not easy. But it'll be systematic, simple, not easy. But you're going to go, 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 go. And you're going to make this happen. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that this time next year, I would love to be running again. Yeah, or earlier. Bike
Earlier.
and skiing. So,
And you're already back to work. You're already back to school. Your life is getting back on track.
yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what do you say to somebody out there watching who maybe didn't have the benefit of having a family member go through this first? What would you say to them right now?
I would say doing this program right away, early on, is huge. To not let it get to a point where you wait, 5+ years where you're just suffering, to take the initiative and fix your health now. There's things you can do now and prevent it from going into a disease-like state long term. So I would highly recommend this program for anyone with long haul and anyone with any of these symptoms. So
Well, that's what I was going to ask you too. Like, who do you recommend this program for?
definitely for autoimmune, but definitely for more than that. I think, like I said, even before I got long haul, I think I would have benefited from this program and potentially avoided long haul, had I been able to fix my gut health and my hormonal health prior. So I think anyone with symptoms, which I think most people probably have some degree of
Dysfunction.
gut dysfunction, hormonal dysfunction. And so just learning this program is probably good for almost anyone.
So now that you have graduated, people want to know, what was it like working with Dr. Maggie? I'm curious, just from your perspective. How was that experience?
Yeah, I thought it was really positive. I think Dr. Maggie is extremely knowledgeable and understands the biochemistry of things in a way that a lot of doctors, I think she brings a holistic perspective to a medical approach, which I think is really, in some ways, rare now to find. And so I think, when you can balance all of these different perspectives, the medical approach, the holistic approach, the functional medicine approach,
And her experience of actually going through it herself.
yeah, definitely. So I think it was super useful. And then yeah, I think just her ability to have us really focus on the wins and focus on the positive during those calls is helpful to encourage people to believe that they can get there.
And what did you witness in the program? Everybody, you weren't the only one getting better, were you?
No, yeah, I've seen a lot of people make huge improvements. So, including my stepmom. So,
Well, that was so wonderful. Maggie, did you want to add anything?
No, I think that was fantastic.
I think what struck me about Heidi's interview is that mindset for her. Mindset was so critical, knowing that she could get better after really losing hope and losing faith in the medical system as well, waiting on doctors to even get in and then not getting any help. She finally now was able to dream about her future again and actually live out those dreams, going back to work, going back to school. And so healing some of those physical symptoms alongside shifting her mindset has made all of the difference. If anybody out there would like to learn more about the Transform program, there's a link above or below this video. If you know somebody who might be interested and could be helped by the Transform program, dealing with chronic disease, autoimmune symptoms, mystery symptoms, tag them in this video because, as Dr. Maggie loves to say, sharing is caring. Thanks so much for watching.